There is no time to screw around this morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's weekend 8? No. 7? Yeah. 7 recap here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. We are starting week 8, which is part of period 7 on a lot of sites. But what we're talking about on today's show is the weekend 7 recap. Guys, I should probably go to sleep earlier than I'm going to sleep. This is an absolute train wreck of a start of a show, but we're going to power through it anyway. I'm Dan Bespris. Welcome to the program. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Bespris, on the new Blue Sky Network at Old Man Squad. Old Man Squad Fantasy over on Instagram. Please make sure to subscribe to everything that we're doing here. And if you have an opportunity to do so, leave that 5-star review. The weekend was a harrowing one. Harrowing, I say, with injuries and replacements and all sorts of fun stuff, and we're going to get into that just in a moment. But first, BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. Plus, they've got the largest selection of odds on everything: football, NBA, college basketball, hockey, UFC. Head to BetOnline today. Don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline. The game starts here. Baboosh! We're going to start on Sunday. We're going to work our way backwards through the weekend. We referred to this over the last few years on the show quite affectionately as the reverse chronological lightning round episode. And the nice thing is we knock out 24 of the 30 teams just on Sunday. We knock out, I think, the rest of them on Saturday. I think everybody played Saturday or Sunday this week. You guys know I like to play this game with myself. Giggity. I don't think we even need to go back to Friday. So that's fun. Let's start at the top. Philly at Charlotte. Sixers got Joel Embiid back. He played 33 minutes after they said he was going to be on a minutes cap, and that didn't really happen. Chicago, sorry, not Charlotte. Embiid, 31 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, a couple of blocks. He didn't shoot all that well, and he had 6 turnovers. But if this is the kind of usage he's going to be collecting, well, that's a good thing for fantasy purposes. It's probably, let's be honest, so this is going to be sort of a weird one to reconcile, I think. You guys know that I've been pro buy low on Joel Embiid, whatever that might mean for you. I mean, we have to be cautious in how much you would have spent on him. But I was in the camp of, if you can get him for like a top 50 guy, you do it. And in a lot of spaces, you could. Some, you could not. So that's the one where you're like, all right, yeah, too rich for my blood kind of thing. While I continue to be a proponent of buying low, if you could, I don't think you can after this ballgame. This is also an opportunity to probably sell high on Embiid. 31 points coming back after all that swelling. We don't know what his recovery is going to be like. This is a really good stretch for Embiid because Philly doesn't play again until Friday. Then they don't play again until the following Monday, and then they don't play again until the following Friday. They have 2 games over the next 11 days. So one would assume that he can probably recover well enough to play in those games. But then you get back into the regular part of the calendar. He's definitely not playing in back-to-backs. I don't know if he's going to handle the every other day rigor, or if there's going to need to be, 2 to 3 days off in between every ball game for him. So we have an opportunity now to cash in on the buy low and go try to move him for someone in the top 25 kind of thing. And again, I know the shooting percentage and the turnovers weren't great, but he did just roll out of bed, basically, and score 31 with 12 and a couple of blocks and 4 assists. So, see what you can do. If not, then you hold on, because, again, this is a pretty good stretch for him. I expect him to play in their next 2 or 3 ball games, meaning you might even have an opportunity to sell slightly higher. And this is where you can maybe, turn a profit on Joel Embiid. I do not expect Kelly Oubre to play as well as he did in the next ball game, but let's keep an eye on it at the very least. Maxey had a triple-double. That's good. Paul George, big hit. Took a big hit here with Embiid back. I think generally he'll be better than this, but you can understand why Dan Titus on our Saturday show said he wanted to sell high on Paul George because you had a very narrow window there where he was back in and Embiid was not. That's as far as you go with the 76ers. Basically not a ton of changes, but I thought it was important to talk about Embiid for a minute. He's a relatively large story. Vooch managed to last 29 minutes against Embiid. Didn't have quite as huge a ball game as usual, but he did have 4 steals, so he just continues to truck along. Josh Giddey had a better game. That's good. Zach LaVine had a good ball game. I figured with Kobe White back, Ayo Dosunmu would not be putting up the same numbers he was with White out. And indeed, that was the case. Dosunmu just a usage rate of about 13 yesterday. 10 points, 5 assists. That's fine, but you're not going to write home about it. And I know the minutes were good, but there's just too many usage guys in the way. Between Giddey doing the point guard thing, Vooch, LaVine, and White taking the shots, typically, Vooch not as much in this ball game, there just isn't enough left for Ayo to do. But if any of those guys gets hurt or traded, Dosunmu is the guy that needs to be rocketed into lineups. He's one, we saw it for 2 ball games, he's one usage guy away from being like a top 65 type of fantasy play, but he's not inside the top 100 when those guys are all healthy. Bobby Portis had a big ball game, but we're not going to read too much into that. Otherwise, the Bucks are relatively predictable. The only other thing to keep note on here with Milwaukee, Chris Middleton, 20 minutes here. He played 23 in his season debut. He was a team best plus 16, interestingly enough, so he still manages to make the team a little bit better. Bucks have Orlando tomorrow, and then they don't play again until either Saturday or Sunday. That'll be an interesting opportunity to see if Middleton's minutes trend up a little bit. If not, then we'll keep sitting on him. 20 minutes is not enough to get him into lineups. No, 11-6 isn't bad, mind you. But we got to get him up to about 25, 26 minutes. I think that's where he can get around top 100 type of value. So let's give it a little bit longer. I am not worried about Brook Lopez after one bad ball game. This was the big Bobby Portis day, and so that's kind of why you saw that pivot. Over on the other side, really good game for Nick Claxton. About damn time, too. They've been nursing his back injury, and they've been kind of bringing him along, kid-gloving him a little bit. And so this is a really good sign. He's starting to wake up. I think, and I want to double-check myself on this, I think this is the biggest minutes he's played in any game all season long to this point. Yeah, pretty sure. He had hit 32 a couple of times, and they kind of brought him back down a little. But this is the first time he's hit 33. The buy low window is now closed after this ball game, and see how it goes, I guess. Dennis Schroeder, Cam Johnson, those are the other guys you're starting for Brooklyn. I wouldn't go really beyond that for now. Charlotte beat Indiana. The Pacers are broken, guys. This was a worse game for Halliburton. But generally, he's been a first rounder over the last 2 weeks, so I'm not super worried about the Halliburton thing. Just what's wrong with the Pacers? Mark Williams sat this one out for Charlotte. It was the second half of a back-to-back, so Nick Richards had a slightly safer play. He wasn't great, but he was fine. So you can play Richards until Mark Williams is fully ramped up or mostly ramped up. Vasilija Micic had a really nice ball game here. Getting the steals was kind of an added bonus. Yes, the turnovers were very high. The percentages are generally kind of hurt you. He's a solid assists stream. While LaMelo Ball is out, nothing really changes there on our valuations. And that's pretty much it for Charlotte. I'm not going to trust basically anybody else because at some point LaMelo and Trey Mann and Miles Bridges are going to come rolling back in. And in between that, you've had Brandon Miller that's been startable. Nick Richards has been startable. Micic has been borderline startable, but probably a go because he gets you stats that are kind of hard to find. And that's it. Don't worry your little selves. Now, the Halliburton thing sucked. He had a bad ball game, but so did pretty much everybody on the Pacers. The whole team was terrible, which is weird too because they shot 51%. But the turnovers were too high. Miles Turner was bad. He had some foul issues, and he was bad. It was sort of a double whammy. I don't know how this team fixes itself, and typically they've been pretty good at home. But the good news in all of this is that TJ McConnell continues to stomp, and that was one that we've been talking about for over a week now, and this one was really like the it-all-came-together game for TJ, who's been excellent. Over the last 2 weeks, he's sitting around the edge of the top 100, mostly because his free throw number is only 77. Also, the assists have not been as high as we might have wanted. Last week, he's inside the top 100. the combo of field goal percent and steals and some assists is really the thing that I certainly look to. And I think he belongs on rosters, at least while he's running hot. So make sure that, not that I need to say it for like a sixth straight day, TJ McConnell, I believe, should be rostered. You guys are not going to argue with me as much after he puts up 30 as, previous games where it was like 14 and 5. Cleveland lost Evan Mobley a little before halfway through and then ultimately lost the game, which, that's going to put a dent into them. You're likely to see better games out of Jarrett Allen when Mobley's out if he has to miss time. I know it didn't really happen in this one because he got Bam Adebayo'd right out. But Allen's going to be he's already obviously a fine play, but he's going to be even better if Mobley has to miss any time. Keep an eye on the Dean Wade, George Niang dynamic. Niang's the guy I would trust because Wade's game doesn't really translate to fantasy all that well. George's does. I don't know that I'm going to race out and pick anybody up. I think you're probably going to see Niang start. I guess it'll come down to the Isaac Okoro situation since he's already out for Cleveland. If Okoro's in, they probably slide Wade up to the power forward spot. But if both Mobley and Okoro are out, then that's probably enough to say Niang should be started. But here's the thing. This week, it's hard to make any calls. Cleveland doesn't play for 4 days right now. They're off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So what are you going to do? Pick up somebody way, 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 way in advance and just hope that the guys that were hurt stay hurt? That's a bad idea. I wouldn't get out in front of anything this week because of the super wonky schedule. I'm getting Duncan Robinson questions, which I didn't think was going to happen basically at any point this year. He's number 215 on the season. Yeah, he's been better over the last week. He's number 94. But I feel like people are very willing to overlook the bad ones because there's been 2 good ones. But that's how it always goes with Robinson. Over his last 2 ball games, he has 42 points and 9 3-pointers. He's also shooting 14 for 23 from the field. I think we know that's not going to stick. So don't do it. Don't do it. I don't want to give you a long explanation. Just don't do it. Take my word for it. For Miami, you're going Tyler Hero, who's just on a shooting binge if it weren't for Nikola Vucevic, we'd be talking about Tyler Hero's insane shooting binge this year. But Vuce is there, so Hero gets kind of buried as the oh, right, yeah, Tyler Hero's having an epic shooting year also. Hero, Adebayo, Butler. That's it. Don't screw around with anybody else. You'll end up pissed. And just, thank me later. Meanwhile, Jimmy Butler's up to number 57. He's shooting 56% from the field, which is crazy, but he's still only at 79% at the free throw line. I can't possibly fathom what's going on with Butler at the foul line, and I still think it's going to correct itself, but better start to happen soon or I'm going to get pissed. Denver blew out Atlanta. They didn't need Russell Westbrook, or they didn't need Jamal Murray for this one because apparently Russ was enough. I think I'm willing to go ahead and call Russ a Jamal injury fill-in. You're not going to go beyond that, or you're going to regret it. But otherwise, Denver's in a start the starters posture here. With Russ in for Jamal. Obviously, if Jamal comes back, then you start him instead. But Christian Brown was good again. MPJ was good. I guess Aaron Gordon is kind of the what do we actually think is going on here guy. You guys know I called Gordon one of the best sell highs at the start of the year. He's now come crashing back to earth where kind of we expected him to be. So maybe not start the starters. Gordon's more of a punt free throw guy. Everybody else, you can give it a go. And Russ, when he's filling in here, if he's going to play 30 minutes alongside Jokic, everybody does enough when they play alongside Jokic. Atlanta was missing Jalen Johnson and Bogdan Bogdanovic, and they got spanked. I don't know that correlation, causation, all that stuff, but it certainly didn't help them. Tyson Daniels had another colossal ball game. It's crazy, man. This dude's defense is out of control. He's at 3.2 steals on the year, and it's been going up. How the hell is that possible? I still think And I hate to say it because I have Dyson Daniels on almost every single fantasy team. Almost all of them. Like the number of... you know what? You guys don't actually care. I'm not going to go down that path because every time I do it, everybody's like, why do you talk about your team? But I think I have him on like 7 out of my 10 cash leagues. So screw you if you don't like to hear about it. The more relevant stuff in this ball game, Larry Nance got the start for Jalen Johnson. Did not see that one coming. I thought they'd slide DeAndre Hunter in there. And nope. So that was a little bit wild. And then if that wasn't enough, I thought, they might consider Onyeka Okongwu. They might consider Garrison Matthews. Nope. Larry Nance. I only bring it up because what if Jalen Johnson misses another ball game? And they play on Wednesday because they're in the Cup. And then, they have a 2-game week. So they play sooner than most teams in the NBA. Meaning, by Tuesday, you could consider picking up Larry Nance and just, like, if you're in a roto league, you stash him for a day, see if he gets another start. Head-to-head, you obviously would want to wait until the very last minute. But if Nance is going to start, I'm going to play him. Larry Nance, starter edition Larry Nance, is one of my favorite things in fantasy, as you guys have known for multiple years now. It just rarely happens, and then even when it does, it usually doesn't last more than a couple of weeks before he blows something out. A tire. We'll just call it a tire. Otherwise, no big surprises in this one. Onward and upward. Clint Capella was Okongwu was kind of Also, this is, to me, where I think these guys end up. Capella's at number 129. Okongwu is at 130. They are literally touching on 9-category rank boards right now. And I think this is close to where they end up, as kind of filler-level guys, where for Capella, if you're punting free throws, he's a go. For Okongwu, if you just need sort of a plodding center, he would be a go. But you could also not go, and I don't think it would matter. That's the magic of the filler-level guys. They don't matter long-term. That's not nice. They matter. Clint, you matter. Onyeka, you matter as a person. But from a fantasy standpoint, you don't matter. Sorry, guys. Phoenix probably should have won this game. They didn't have Kevin Durant, so yeah, and they didn't have Yusuf Nurkic, but I don't know that one actually changes things all that much for them. Orlando, without their 2 most important players, won again. As far as fantasy goes, though, and that's what we're worried about here, Grayson Allen is damn close for me to being a guy that I'm playing. He's been trending up lately. The shot's been dropping. My only concern with Grayson Allen is how much of his recent play is tied to Kevin Durant being out, and how much was Bradley Beal being out before that. The shooting certainly has been trending up. That's a good sign. He's definitely been inside the top 100 for the last week and a half, something along those lines. But what do his minutes look like when the Suns have their big 3 healthy at the same time? That's what we haven't really gotten a good data point on yet. And it might be that he's in that 23-24 zone more permanently, and that won't be enough. It's going to need to be higher than that, and I don't know that we can guarantee that it will be. So think about it. I don't know that we have to act on it. And again, we're talking about this week where you really don't have to act on anything. Phoenix plays Friday, Sunday, so you can sit on this for 4 days. I think they're hoping to have Kevin Durant back by that game. Mason Plumlee is borderline startable as long as he's the starting center with Yusuf Nurkic out. Royce O'Neal has been putting up some pretty good numbers here with no Kevin Durant. But if his three-point shooting cools off, he turns into a pumpkin real fast. So that's why he's not my favorite streamer guy. For Orlando, Goga Bitadze went colossal in his first game, or in the team's first game without Franz Wagner, which we did a show on Saturday, a special show on the Franz injury, and Goga was the guy that we listed as having the likeliest path to staying a fantasy start. Obviously, Jalen Suggs. That one was sort of a no-brainer. KCP, to me, was kind of like the next most likely, and he was fine. He wasn't good. He got 3 steals and 2 3-pointers. That's kind of all you're hoping for out of him, but certainly you wanted a little bit more. You wanted a rebound in 33 minutes. And then the next one that I put on the list, you guys might remember this, was Mo Wagner, who only played 17 minutes, but high usage guy. And the next one on the list was Cole Anthony. Remember we talked about Cole Anthony on Saturday? Because he's basically the only other guy on the roster that can create a shot. And Cole played 29 minutes, kind of, I didn't say out of nowhere, but they needed it. They need someone else that can go help create some kind of offense. I think you can make Cole Anthony a speculative ad. Roto Gamescap. I don't think that I would play him tomorrow in Milwaukee, or their game in Milwaukee, I should say, because I don't know that he's going to get 29 minutes again. It might have been that they were just like, yeah, crap, we're not getting any offense right now. We got to get somebody in there that can do something. But this is why I wasn't high on Tristan da Silva. Not super high on an Anthony Black ad. I like the steal and a couple of blocks, but we've seen the efficiency stuff and just not super aggressive on offense, and doesn't pile up the assists the way you'd want if you were picking up a point guard. So for now, my stance on Orlando after seeing one game without Franz. By the way, Paolo apparently not that far away, so let's not worry ourselves too much about it. Is Goga's a must play? He should have been added already. KCP is still kind of in that probably territory, and then with Mo Wagner, and Cole Anthony, you got to be careful because there's an Anthony Black. With Mo Wagner and Cole Anthony, these are guys that I think we can probably wait to do anything with. Maybe you want to do the whole, let's see it again type of deal. But if you were just, gunning for some head-to-head stats, I think both those guys would be interesting schedule plays this week because we know they play twice. At least there's that. Could be a big gap between their games, though. Man, what keeps happening to my voice these days? I gotta stop talking. Memphis blew out Washington without a couple of guys. Here's a nice one. We can pretty much just crumple this one up and throw it away because there was no Ja and there was no Desmond Bane, and Memphis was like, hey, Washington, you good with us beating you? And Washington was like, yep, we're trying to lose. And so they got their guys some rest. The Wizards side, on the other hand, this I do want to focus on for a minute because it seems like they've kind of shifted who's getting some opportunity right now. And now it's the Justin Champagnie show. 14 points, 8 rebounds, 5 steals, and a couple of three-pointers. It's 2 good ones in a row. The Champagnies are hanging tough these days. 3 games in a row that he's played pretty good minutes after basically not playing all year. He'd been G-leaguing around. And, he's on a heater. There's no question about that. And when that cools off, how does this go? And if Kyle Kuzma comes back, then that's the end of it also. But probably, Justin Champagnie, probably startable if he remains the starting power forward. We've been talking about Bilal a lot. JV had a nice ball game, but he's been a soft hold for a while. Jordan Poole's a hold also. I want to talk about Bilal and Bub Carrington. Those are the 2 guys that I want to cover up here. And no, I'm not interested in Marvin Bagley. I know he had a good ball game, but dear God, no. Coulibaly is one that we've been I don't want to say hemming and hawing a little bit, but even after he shot 0 for 10, you might remember we came on the pod and I said something to the effect of, I don't know how you can hold him right now, but I still kind of want you to. And this is why. His last ball game, I think he had 7 defensive stats while still shooting terribly. This ball game, he shot a little bit better. 17 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, a steal, a block, and a 3. He has the ability to put up stats kind of across the table. And despite the horrible shooting run he'd been on, he still ranked 120th, which is king of the filler zone. I know that's not exactly a needle-moving place to be ranked, but in my eyes, that's a guy that's worth a roster spot. And then Carrington's a guy that I thought would have a better opportunity here with no Brogdon and no Kuzma, but we're seeing the young stuff kicking in, so I'm going to pass on Bub for now. Pelicans were without Brandon Ingram. Brandon Boston had a slightly better ball game, but I don't care. Murphy, Missy, Murray, Herb, CJ McCollum. Those are the only ones you're worried about, and we can move along. Spurs got Wemby back, and he was decent. Chris Paul was decent. Charles Bassey had a big ball game, but some of that was because they were keeping Wemby's minutes in check. I don't know that that's going to happen again, and some of that was also that Zach Collins left this game early. Keldon Johnson also got hurt early in this game, and he'll probably miss a few. Calf strain. So, with a couple more players out, the Spurs can shuffle the deck a little bit. I would expect that Jeremy Sohan is going to play more than 23 minutes. I would expect that Devin Vassell is going to play better in his 28 minutes. Would I continue to hang on to Julian Champagnie now that Keldon Johnson's out? I mean, you can, but you can also kind of see where this is headed. So if you wanted to squeeze a little bit more out of Julian Champagnie, you can, but he's also going to be one of the first guys I would cut if and when something interesting pops up. Stephon Castle had a better efficiency game. This is the first one of those in a while, so again, like that's the long shot active stash type. You're not picking up Harrison Barnes. You are holding Sohan if you're punting free throws. Otherwise, I don't know that you necessarily have to. Vassell is a buy low. That's probably the most interesting thing from this game. Devin Vassell is a big-time buy low because he's still coming off the bench, and I don't know that people fully trust him, but he's good. That's the bottom line. Minnesota. That's a little bit of a weird one. They're mixing and matching. I'll give them that. They tried Nickeil Alexander-Walker at point instead of Mike Conley. Or Anthony Edwards kind of became point guard a little bit there. And it didn't so much work. I still believe that Conley's a guy that should probably be held. He's number 112 in 9 category leagues. That's technically good enough to start. And I don't think he's going to shoot 36% for the entire year. It's going to be one of those ones where, like, some guys are plodding along, and then they have a gigantic ball game, and they jump up 30 slots. With Conley, it's going to be like, he shot 43% for this game, 3 out of 7. He's going to do that. He's going to do 3 of 7, then he's going to do 4 of 7, and then he's going to do like 4 of 9, and he's going to have like a 5 for 11 game, and he's just going to shoot like 45% for a really long time, and all of a sudden his season field goal percent is going to creep up, 36, 37, 38, 39, and then you're going to see his rank slowly creep with it. So it's going to be boring, is basically what I'm telling you guys. But he should probably be rostered. For the Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga, another big ball game there. There's a little bit more kind of under the hood with the Warriors right now. Steve Kerr said he wanted to bring Draymond Green off the bench, and then Andrew Wiggins got hurt, and Gary Payton started, and then Draymond is back in the starting lineup for this one, but not Kevon Looney. So believe what you want from Warriors land. What was important here is that with Wiggins out, Kuminga continued to take a bunch of shots. That's good. I think Kuminga was one of those guys, and he was a Draymond injury fill-in, and now we know he's a Wiggins injury fill-in, but did it wake him up? You're not going to get 5 defensive stats out of him maybe ever again, but did it wake him up? When the Warriors get healthy, is Kuminga going to continue to take 15, 16 shots a game? I doubt it, but I also don't want to be the guy who's like, I doubt it, so whatever. Instead, I would say go ahead and add him. Call it speculative if you want. See what he does. I mean, you've got the injury replacement game or games, depending on how long Wiggins is out, to sort of think this one through. But I wouldn't assume that it's going to stay great when the Warriors get healthy again. Buddy Hield, 7 3-pointers. This could be the start of another heater. There are very few guys in the NBA. You guys know this about me. I tend to not chase heaters. Buddy Hield is one of the few guys that I do. So make sure he's not on wires. This would be the opportunity to drop him into a lineup. Again, some of that has to do with Wiggins being out, so there was more field goal attempt in the pool. But you don't want to miss it if Hield is getting hot. And then keep one eye on Gary Payton. I don't think that's going to be a thing, but keep one eye on it. You're definitely not adding there. Houston beat the Clippers. This is the battle of the injured. No James Harden and no Derek Jones on one side. No Freddie VanVleet, no Tari Eason on the other. So Dylan Brooks had a big ball game. I don't care. Amen Thompson had a really nice ball game. That's the magic of one guy being out in the Houston starting lineup. And then everything else was, like what you might have expected, give or take a little bit. For the Clippers, the James Harden absence allowed Kevin Porter Jr. to kind of cut loose and play 37 minutes. That's good to know. If Harden has to miss another ball game, you could probably play KPJ. Bones had 22 off the bench. That's a dicey play. So I think Kevin Porter's the guy you'd probably consider starting if Harden has to miss another ball game. Utah got blown out by 44. Close ball game. Keontae George and Walker Kessler played big minutes despite the awful outcome, which is a good sign. That's basically an edict coming from on high that the Jazz got to play these young dudes. So that makes me feel really good about Walker Kessler. I'm never going to feel good about Keontae George because he's not even inside the top 200. But Kessler's number 29 right now. And the amazing part is that he's been trending up. So that I love. Yay, I guess. Sacramento, you can kind of dump the box. Everybody got a little bit of something before this game got out of hand. I think De'Aaron Fox, looking at the numbers here, he's the only king to play over 30 minutes. Like, you're not going to pick up Kevin Huerter. You're not picking up Keon Ellis. You're not going to drop Malik Monk. Like, just stick it out. Don't do anything with the Kings. And then the Blazers, who are not a very good offensive team, got very little offense. So, big surprise there. I told you guys I didn't want anything to do with Denny Avdia with Jeremy Grant back. I continue to feel that way, even though Grant is in a shooting funk for the ages. I've been telling you guys to sell high on Jeremy Grant basically since the first game of the year. You certainly can't do that anymore, not after a game this bad. I don't want to say you could buy low on him, but you might be able to buy low on Jeremy Grant. But I want nothing to do with him, so why would I even say it? Don't even stop. Just rewind it. Just don't even think about it. I want nothing to do with Jeremy Grant. Feh, bleh, and eh. DeAndre Ayton was decent. That's about all you got out of the Blazers in this ballgame. Shaedon Sharpe, punt field goal guy. Simons, punt field goal guy. I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? I just kept watching this game thinking, man, what if they had Robert Williams healthy? They might have won this game if Robert Williams could come in and play, 19, 20 backup center minutes, because Ayton wasn't guarding anybody. I know he had 19 rebounds, but he certainly wasn't guarding anyone. Because the Lakers were down two of their three most important players and just, really didn't almost have any trouble with the Blazers. Got off to a slow start, but D'Lo finally got to be D'Lo for a day, so that was fun. AD was big. Rui Hachimura went big. And then a bunch of other guys did, a little bit of stuff. That was the whole story. They played defense, though. That was an interesting twist. What are you going to do with it? Lakers are off until Friday. I wouldn't go out and race to grab Rui Hachimura because I feel pretty confident that LeBron will be back by that one. I don't know about Reeves. He's still dealing with that injury after the hard fall. But at least LeBron will be back. And so what are you going to do? You're going to pick up somebody 4 days in advance and then hope? We'll talk about it again later on in the week, but let's not get nuts. Quickly back to Saturdays. We can get this sucker wrapped up. Who haven't we talked about yet? We have talked about Cleveland. We've talked about Charlotte. We've talked about Denver. We've talked about Washington. OKC. Keep an eye on Alex Caruso, ladies and gentlemen. He played 24 minutes in this game. Yes, he shot the ball well, but I don't even care about that. It's the minutes that I was watching. Cason Wallace, I think he's a punt points guy. I think we can pretty much lock that in at this point. And, boy, if Alex Caruso can get up to 25 minutes, I would love to put him on some teams. And I'll tell you why. Because, he's obviously not going to do what Dyson Daniels is doing because he's not going to get the playing time. And, they're built a little differently. But if Caruso starts to get 25, 26 minutes, it's going to allow you to trade Dyson Daniels, to sell high on him and have, a buffer against losing all your team steals. So I really hope this is the start of something for Alex, but I don't know that it is, so I'll probably wait and see for one more game. No changes for Detroit. I continue to think that Jaden Ivey is not a category league fantasy player. Jalen Duren's a guy you try to move after one good ball game. This wasn't it. Malik Beasley, when he gets hot, if you want to play it, you can. If you are terrified of doing so, I understand, because that's how I feel. The Knicks were without Karl Anthony Towns for this ballgame. They play again tonight, and we don't have an update on him yet. They're a great streaming team this week because the Knicks are the only club in the NBA with 3 games, meaning if you're streaming, McBride and Achua should probably be on your roster. Otherwise, not worry about any of these guys. I don't even want Precious Achua when Cat is out because Precious has a weird fantasy game. Not for Roto, at least. Sorry. I need to be clearer with my distinctions here. For streaming, obviously, yes, all these guys are a go. For Roto, you're not playing the bench guys. And you're definitely not playing Jericho Sims. Dallas beat Toronto. These are another couple of teams we haven't got to yet. Dallas is back to full strength. So Luka, Kyrie, Gafford, Lively, and PJ are the 5 guys I'm willing to play. I'm not starting Klay Thompson, and I'm definitely not going down the streaming rabbit hole with guys like Dinwiddie and Grimes. So just back to those main 5. Not the starters, but the main 5. For Toronto, Kelly Olynyk made his season debut on Saturday. You guys know I love me some Kelly Olynyk, but first of all, this is a pretty good line for him in his first game back. He had a perfecto going, actually. I just don't think there's enough minutes. He put up his big numbers last year in Toronto when Pirtle and Barnes were both out, and Barrett missed time in there also. And Boucher was fully in the doghouse and not playing. So they're just like, all the runway was open for him to be that top 50, 60 guy. This year, as long as Pirtle's healthy, Olynyk's probably looking at like an 18, 19-minute role when he gets up to full bore. Maybe they'll play them alongside one another. They didn't really want to much last year. Minimal. Little bit, but minimal. I know he's like the prodigal son, come home, but they're just, I don't think there's enough playing time. Not to be a 9-cat everyday starter. As much as I wish he was, but I don't think he will be. Grady Dick had a good ball game here. I don't think 21 shots is a thing that's going to happen most days. If it does, he becomes a pretty solid 3-point streamer, and to me, that's really all he is when Barrett and Barnes and all these guys are actually in. Grady Dick made his hay this year when all those guys were out. We already talked Phoenix and Miami. We talked Memphis. Boston is now exiting their extremely heavy schedule part of the calendar. They're off until Thursday. They go Thursday, Sunday this week. Which I guess is like kind of a decent schedule compared to some other teams. But I wouldn't do anything today. I would assume that the regulars are going to play in those games also. So, what do you need me for on this one? You need me to tell you whether or not to start Al Horford? I probably would not when he's the first guy off the bench. He and Pritchard. Pritchard you can probably start even when the team's healthy. It seems like he's, top 80 to 100 range when everybody's there, and then he bumps up to 50 to 60 range when someone's not. And, he just continues to shoot well. And I think that's everybody. Did I miss anyone? I am doing this game. I'm not going to even pull up the Friday card. I'm just going to assume I got everybody because I'm looking at the calendar in front of my face, and I feel fairly confident. Boston, Dallas, Detroit, New York, OKC, Toronto. Yeah, those are the teams we needed to get to. Okay, that's it. Stick a fork in it. We are done with our recap show. We're going to have a buy low, sell high expert show coming up a little bit later on today. Stay tuned for that. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe. That's the big one. Hit that subscribe button. That way I will give you hugs and kisses. Come on. Come on. You want the hugs and kisses. Find me on social, at Dan Vespers on Twitter, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky. Again, if you have an opportunity to throw a 5-star review on something we're doing here, that would be truly spectacular, and you will receive additional hugs and kisses in the meantime. I'm Dan Vespers for Old Man Squad. I'm out.